For ancient Israel, this was it. The massive temple in Jerusalem was finally finished, capping off a golden era of stability and wealth. The nation's economic dominance had reached its zenith. A massive maritime trade fleet was actively hauling vast shipments of gold back from Ophir, pouring immense riches into the royal treasury. Geopolitically, King Solomon was untouchable. He was globally renowned, his borders were completely secure from major military threats, and he had achieved a level of peace that most leaders can only dream of. Solomon had achieved the ultimate human fantasy: total security, infinite resources, and unchallenged power. He had built a flawless kingdom, but the seeds of its destruction were already being planted. Right in the middle of this national celebration, God appeared to Solomon privately for a second time. He accepted the newly built temple, but immediately attached a severe condition. The terms were explicit. If Solomon or his descendants turned to worship other gods, Israel would be cut off from the land, and this flawless, pristine temple would be reduced to a heap of ruins. These other gods were the masks worn by fallen spiritual forces seeking to dismantle the covenant and hijack the glory of God. Issuing a threat of total destruction at a ribbon-cutting ceremony seems jarring, but it highlights a crucial reality about human nature. We are incredibly vulnerable to moral collapse precisely when we are the most comfortable. The cracks in Solomon's kingdom started with political compromises that looked brilliant on paper. Take his marriage to Pharaoh's daughter, bringing the strategic city of Gezer as a dowry. This was viewed as a geopolitical masterstroke, securing a fortified military outpost essentially for free. But this alliance imported foreign idolatry directly into the royal court, acting as a spiritual high-interest loan that eventually bankrupted the nation's soul. Secular shortcuts always arrive disguised as free gifts and strategic victories. Leveraging those worldly alliances to secure a nation always carries a devastating, delayed price tag that ultimately demands payment. The second symptom of decay showed up in how Solomon handled his massive construction deficits. To settle his debts with King Hiram of Tyre, he casually gave away 20 cities. Located in Galilee, both kings weighed this territory by financial value, dismissing it as wasteland. By treating the promised land as a cheap commodity, Solomon used God's inheritance as financial leverage. Centuries later, Jesus used this rejected region to launch a kingdom of grace. When leadership begins viewing sacred things purely through the lens of economic utility, the core mission is already dead. There was one final, dark engine driving Solomon's empire forward. His massive building projects were achieved through mass forced labor. He drafted the surviving Canaanite populations into servitude to build his walls and store cities. The historical irony is thick. Solomon was emulating the exact behavior of the Egyptian pharaohs who had originally enslaved his own ancestors. He fell into the trap of prioritizing economic efficiency and rapid expansion over God's clear standards of justice. Building a monument to God using methods that violate God's character turns that monument into a secular idol. Fast forward through history, and it becomes clear that God's harsh ultimatum in the temple was not a bluff. Solomon's kingdom violently fractured after his death, and eventually the physical temple he built was completely erased from the skyline. This destruction was the mathematical, inevitable harvest of the compromises Solomon had planted during peacetime. The flawless exterior of an institution cannot save it once the internal moral foundation has been hollowed out. The same principle holds true today. God prioritizes the internal integrity of the person far above the impressive deliverables they produce. We tend to keep our guard up during the struggles, but we are actually most prone to wandering away from our values at the absolute peak of our success. True, enduring success requires the integrity to reach the summit without selling your soul just to stay there.